Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. It's time to do a little bit more work on the air pump. Now, I guess I can't really call it a brass air pump anymore because this is the flywheel. I just finished turning it down and it's actually way too hot to touch at the moment. So I'm just going to show you that. If I had have made that out of brass, that single piece of brass would cost way more than all the parts in the rest of the build, brass and everything else included. So I've decided to make it out of aluminum because I actually had a piece that was of a good size in the shop anyway. So it just worked out. I think it'll have enough mass to actually be more than good enough for a flywheel. So I've actually made a few decisions on this build. So before I get to turning down the flywheel, I want to show you pretty much what I've come up with. I've actually been watching a number of videos lately about, of all things, model steam engines. And I've seen a couple things in there that I really want to incorporate into this build. The most important one is I am going to extend the rod of the piston. I want it to be out further. I want it to be solid, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that down, this rod here, to 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to screw it into the piston, and that way this rod will go in and out straight. There will be a bracket. It won't be as far back as the valve I just put there, but it'll be far enough back that it will keep the rod nice and straight as it goes in and out, and of course allow for the full stroke of the piston. And then it'll be attached to the piece of flat bar here, and that will go to the flywheel. Now the reason why I want to do this is if the piston goes in and out straight, and like I said, the connections are where I want to put them, I can actually have a longer stroke. Because if it goes, if I do the shorter version I wanted before, that piece of flat bar can't have too much of a higher position on the flywheel because it'll go up and down, and then it will have the possibility of interfering with the cylinder. And if I made the brass bar long enough that it didn't do that, it would just be too big a build. So this prevents that, and it also prevents like I don't want any wiggle in it at all. So this is going to give me another point of contact, and hopefully it'll keep everything nice and straight. So while I've been babbling on here, what you saw is the acrylic bracket I had made when I was doing trying to use a table saw to turn down at least the initial parts of a piece of acrylic before putting it on a lathe. And I thought that'd be actually an interesting way of taking this piece of aluminum plate and at least doing the initial parts to it so that I don't have to put it on the lathe and do all the turning on that. Keep in mind when I was making this decision, the day before I had spent the entire day moving my dad from his current or his old apartment to his new apartment, so I was a little tired. Now, if I wouldn't have even bothered trying to do this, I think if I was a little bit more awake. This part here is fine, and getting it ready for the mandrel is standard. There isn't really anything different about that. And the only thing I actually would change, I think, is I need a few more drill bits and sizes between the two big ones I use, which is 15/16 and 1 inch, and the biggest drill bit I have other than that hovers around the 1/2 inch mark. I think I have a couple that are just slightly more. So I really do need a couple that are, somewhere between 3/4 and then probably 1/8 bigger and 1/8 smaller as well to make this a little bit better. Because when I went up to the 15/16 and tried to drill the rest of this is a big chunk of aluminum. There was just way too much chatter. But fortunately, as you'll see shortly, I do have a number of end mills. And end mills are better, well, they're more precision ground because that's their job. So it was actually, I had a good one to do, you're going to see the chatter here in a second. I had a good one that was at 7/8, so it was small enough that it would fit in here, and I can do a plunge mill on this, and that's actually what I'll end up doing here shortly. Like I said, I was pretty wiped, and I actually probably should have skipped today's video, just to tell you the truth. And I almost did because, I don't want to show you guys shoddy work simply because I want to put a video out. But I am a stubborn person sometimes, so this is it. Anyway, this is fine. This part here is okay. It wasn't difficult to do. And again, the plunge milling with the end mill in aluminum is, it just like, it's like butter. I mean, it's designed for this, so that's actually not the problem. The problem was the whole idea of deciding to do this by turning it on that mandrel on this press, or sorry, the milling machine, and doing it that way. It works, as you'll see as it comes along here. It does produce an awful lot of crap. It works, but it was excruciatingly slow. It might have just been the fact that I was really tired at the time anyway, but I'm going to see, this is a rectangular piece, and to start off with, I am going to have to make it square. So that's the first step. I'm going to lop off one of the big ends, and that part was fine. I mean, it didn't take horribly long, but it was like 45 minutes to do that, and I think mostly because I was really tired, it just seemed really long. And as this progresses here, we're going to get to the point where I'm going to start trying to knock off the ends, and it was really actually on the very first one, the very first corner I'm cutting off. I've had enough of this. I'm just too tired to do this, and if I'm going to actually do the narration for this as well, I don't want to be up late, and because like I said, I was up late the day before moving my dad, and then I had to get up at 6 this morning. So yeah, it was just not a good idea. So anyway, this part's fine. This is actually pretty good, and if I had taken this piece and then put it in my metal cutting bandsaw and just lopped off at least reasonably close to where it needs to be, it would have been balanced enough, and it would have been fine to put into the lathe. Because that's a problem I couldn't put this into the lathe. First off, it wouldn't fit. But even if it did fit, it would not be balanced enough for that. And it is, it'll cause issues and chattering and a whole pile of other stuff. So I didn't want to do that. But like I said, if I put it in the metal cutting bandsaw and then just removed the big chunk and then did what I always do for turning down these things, it would have been fine. But when it comes to the point where you're doing this and about, halfway in, or you're not even halfway in, you wish you had gone out and bought yourself a piece of round bar to do this. It's a bad sign. So anyway, so here it is. This part is fine. It fits on there nicely. I'm going to clamp this in place. I'm going to register off of the shortest end, because when I was drilling the hole, I wasn't being terribly careful, because this flywheel is there's no real necessity for a specific dimension. So as long as it runs true by the time I'm done doing all this, that's all it really mattered. So this side that I'm heading towards now, this is the short side by about a 1/16 of an inch. Again, not an issue for my lathe, so it was, like I said, it's not a big deal. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make sure that the piece is square, and then I'm going to turn it and lop off the fat end there. And again, I said, there's nothing really wrong with doing it this way, but I had kind of a bug in my head about how well that piece of acrylic turned out. And like I said, I should have just done it the way I always do it, because it's not the kind of thing you want to start doing when you're tired. Actually, that reminds me of something. I do want to do another giveaway, because I want to try out more using the table saw and using acrylic to do so. So I want to be able to cut down on the time it takes to prepare acrylic discs, and that really worked out really well. So what I want to do is I want to make a number of feeding rings. I'm going to probably make a few, because I can probably fit about 4 comfortably on the mandrel without having to worry about having issues with having it fit properly. And I might even be able to fit more. So if there's anyone who's interested in getting a feeding ring, I'm going to do the same kind of giveaway I did with the last undergravel filter. As long as you're willing to pay for the postage, I will build the feeding rings, and just let me know in the comments below. At this point here, I have it roughly square, and I'm starting to knock off the corners. And I did about 2-3 passes on this, and it was going to take at least a half hour, 45 minutes to knock off each corner. And I decided it just wasn't worth it. I know when I put it on the lathe, even with it a little bit out of square, I can turn this down and probably like down to round in about a half hour. And it was just like, all right, forget that. Like, I'm tired. Let's just do this way. I did want to try it initially, but it just, like I said, it was just too much for the particular day, I guess. And you can see as this turns around, it is a fair amount out of square, but I have a fairly beefy lathe here, and it doesn't take too many passes before I can get it down to the point where it is actually not even an issue at all anymore. And as you can see, I'm already picking up the pace here, even though this is like 4 times. So here we're almost down to round. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. My apologies for... I can't even touch this right now. That's how hot that was. My apologies for doing this when I'm too tired. I shouldn't have skipped this video for today, but I do need this up and ready for work for this weekend, so I can start working on this because I have a bit of time this weekend. And at least from that perspective, I'm glad I did this. Otherwise, like I said, I should have taken a break and not done this. But it turned out good enough. This is just roughed out. It needs to be finished better. I need to do some work on both ends, but I wanted to actually just get this to the point where it was ready for that. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.